It wasn't until I went into a deep meditative practice that I was able to really understand what depth was. And likely on a surface level, because there is infinite depth that you can go. And as I went into these meditative practices, which are not limited to what is known as meditation, doors were opened. And you quickly realize that the practices come with the philosophies. And being that my motivation was to become better and to feel better within myself, to have a more pleasant life experience, being that I was coming from a place of ignorance and immaturity, I never really thought of the philosophical aspects. They showed up in my life and my journey, but I was not fully able to appreciate it for what it was, and I was also very dismissive of those aspects when it comes to philosophy. And that might have a lot to do with the type of philosophy that I was learning. As I deepened my practice, and let's say Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga was one of the first practices that I started to really regain my control, to have self-control. And I witnessed within myself my ability to heal myself through this practice, through this repetition. Every day, I would wake up, and the first thing that I would do before anything else was go straight into this practice that was memorized. And I just happened to stumble upon these videos that allowed me to practice at varying levels. And the person that was teaching me never said a single word to me or to any of us, and simply demonstrated the practice. I knew that there were so many different kinds of yoga that you can practice. And before entering this Hatha Yoga practice, I was practicing very basic level stretching, yogic flows, pranayama. And it was from a woman who was traveling and, just kind of not what I imagined to be the real thing, right? Like if I were to go and practice and study my own. So that was kind of what I was going for. I was looking for guidance from somebody who was the real deal, say. That's what I was really interested in. And so I kind of just clicked through videos. I tried a bunch out that seemed more authentic to its origins. And yeah, this one particular guy, his practice, what he shared, resonated the most out of everything that I tried, and I stuck with it. And I memorized the flow. This is just one part of my journey. I also got really into meditations, visualization, qigong, and chanting. All of these experiences unlocked things within me that allowed me to witness what depth means, allowed me to have this experience of depth. And I could not imagine a life where I am not aware of the depth of this life experience. I realized over time the difference between practicing and not practicing, and existing in this practice state, taking the time to breathe and to connect, from that other experience where I just go into the world without this centering process, without this grounding, without connecting to my center. I could feel it so palpably. The tension in my body, contrast to the freedom, the liberation that I would experience when I was practicing diligently, right? Because sometimes you don't have 4 hours to give in certain areas. And really, you do have as much time in the world as you would like to dedicate to any one practice. But it takes practice to get to that point, right? So throughout the process, I noticed that some days it was more challenging for me to really balance other aspects of my life with really dedicating that deeper flow, that deeper practice in my day. But nonetheless, I fell in love with my practice. Like I said, I cannot imagine a world in which I do not take the time to connect with my being. And when I say my being, I mean in a holistic way, as a physically embodied being on this earth. Your body requires attention. And the deeper you take that, practice that attention, the deeper you breathe, the more consistently you pay attention to these things, the deeper you stretch. Really, it's all about the breath in any practice. But even when I'm doing yoga and I'm stretching my hips, if I go 2 days without stretching my hips, I feel that, and I can sense the energy that gets stored in those hips, the memories that get stored over time, many, many years. Truly taking the time, allowing yourself to deepen your practice so that you can notice the difference, so that you're allotted this lovely experience of being able to feel again, being able to know what that is. It's so beautiful, it's so priceless, and so valuable. And sometimes it takes being in a really dark place to look in that direction, but ideally, it doesn't. And it doesn't have to look like, Hatha Yoga or Qigong. There are many different paths that you can walk. There are many directions that you can take it. But when you do it with heart, when you do it with a genuine desire, a genuine heartfelt desire, when you go all in, a lot of the things that worry you, that concern you, they start to dissolve effortlessly. You don't even have to think about it. It's not even a thought. Nothing matters anymore. It could be music. It could be anything that you're passionate about. The distinguishing factor when it comes to actually connecting with the body, though, is that you will be able to have the full spectrum, right? It's holistic. It's a holistic and ancient practice. There's a reason why certain practices stand the test of time. So much to the point where even somebody like me, so ignorant, so far removed from what that is, or at least that's what it seemed like to me when I reflect, it feels like I'm so far removed from where I once was. I could never even fathom being able to see this, to have experienced this. Practice is what will allow you to see that. And when you put in that practice, when you decide, you will see very clearly how simple and how pleasant and how lovely life is. Life is. Not because you've attained something, not because you've mastered anything, but simply because you are connecting with your true nature. And the breath is one of the most essential, is the most essential aspect of every practice. Also, find that the imagination is a treasure, it's a gift. You can imagine beautiful things, or you can imagine horrific things. You can breathe life into beautiful, magnificent life experiences for yourself and for humanity, or you can breathe life and imagine horrific and malicious things for humanity without even realizing it in places that are not necessary. It's not necessary to do it. It's not helping. It's actually hurting. In some cases, it's a reality, it is apparent, and just like any emotion that we might experience, it must be addressed. But in many cases, especially when we don't have a practice, especially when we don't have a path or guidance, proper guidance, it is common and understandable for one to truly utilize their gift to breathe life into experiences that are very hurtful to oneself. So even now, we can take this opportunity to maybe imagine something beautiful for yourself or for humanity. Think of something that maybe has been nudging you as of recently. Like, is there something as of recently that has been calling your name? A practice, a pathway to your center that has been calling your name? Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's a sport, maybe it's the idea of taking a walk, something, even a creative endeavor, whatever it is. It's kind of nudging at you lately. Think of something that has been speaking to you. And in this moment, I want you to imagine yourself just going for it, not even thinking about it anymore. Just being there and going for it and loving it, even though it's not as clear as the experience itself, having the experience itself. Just breathe life into it. That in of itself is a practice with infinite depths. I trust that you guys will look in the description links and explore different avenues that might point you in a direction. Maybe none of those are in alignment with what you truly want, with the path that you want to walk, but maybe it will point you in the right direction, alter your algorithm a little bit.